Hey, everybody. Happy Friday to you. We're at the end of another week and just a couple weeks left, and then we're all done for the year. So we will continue to make our way through the circles chapter. I've got just one big deal idea. This should be a pretty quick lesson, honestly, because this is really all we have to do, and then we'll see a couple different perspectives from which we attack problems like these. But big deal idea number 4 goes like this. If I've got a couple of chords, a couple of lines that are crossing the circle at multiple places, the measure of the angle that's formed between them is the average of the measures of these two arcs that the angles are intercepting. Now, angle X is over here. Don't forget that angle X would also be over here because they're vertical angles. And so these angles, as it says here, it's the average of those two intercepted arcs, the two arcs that are intercepted by the angles inside of the circle. And of course, to take the average of two things, if I say the average of my and my brother's age is 45, that means my age plus my brother's age divided by 2 is 45. To take the average of two things, you just add them up and divide by 2. And so that's the formula that I've got here. The measure of that angle formed by the two chords is equal to half of the sum, which is just the average. Add them up, divide by 2. Repeat, add them up, divide by 2. And so when we see problems like this one, we'll start off pretty straightforward. Angle ACB, that's this angle right there. Well, that is the angle. It's the same as this one over here. And so the measure of this angle, as we just saw in the formula, it is the average of these two intercepted arcs. And the average of these two things, add them up and divide by 2. So in this case, I do 34 plus 46 divided by 2. 34 and 46 is 80. 80 divided by 2 is 40. And so this angle, we're looking for angle ACB, that is 40 degrees. And that's it. Now that's pretty straightforward. I give you these two arcs, ask for the angle that has those as the intercepted arcs, and that's all you got to do. Add them up, divide by 2. This problem looks very similar, and it is very similar, but it's a little bit different. This one's saying find the measure of angle ACD. That's this arc over here, excuse me, this angle over here. And I don't know what this intercepted arc is. And so our strategy on a problem like this one is to say, well, I know these two intercepted arcs. And so if I know these two arcs, 87 over here and 11 here, we'll be able to find the measure of this angle, angle ACB. And then if I know what angle ACB is, well, then these two angles add up to 180, so we'll just subtract from 180 at the end. So just a little bit more complicated than the one that we just did. So angle ACB is the average of 87 and 11. So 87 plus 11 is 98. 98 divided by 2 is 49. And so this angle here is 49, angle ACB. But they want me to find angle ACD. Well, ACD plus 49 adds up to 180. So let's just take this 180 total, take 49 away from that, and we'll be left with the measure of this one. And you can see with the work that I've got down at the bottom of the screen, 180 minus 49 is 131. So the angle that I'm looking for, ACD, is 131 degrees. Just a little bit more complicated. With the next example I have the angle of the intersecting chords. I've got one of the intercepted arcs. I don't have the other one, but the rule stays the same. This 98 degrees must be equal to the average of these two intercepted arcs. I just don't know what one of the intercepted arcs is. Now, maybe you could just think about this and figure out how to do it. If you're more like me and you can't just visualize and just know what the answer is, I'm going to write down the equation that says that this angle, this 98 degrees, is the average of these two, and the average of these two is arc AB plus arc DE. So arc AB I don't know, arc DE is 56. So add them up and divide by 2, and I know that I'm going to get 98 degrees, the angle that's inside of here. So now, instead of just plugging in and getting an answer, I've got a little bit of algebra to do. I'm going to multiply both sides of this equation by 2, because that'll cancel out that 2. 2 times 98 is 196. So 196 is equal to AB plus 56. And then just a little bit of algebra, we'll subtract 56 from both sides of the equation. And 196 minus 56 degrees is 140 degrees. And so that is the measure of that arc, 140 degrees. Now, of course, if this was a test or a quiz, you'd probably check and make sure that that works. 140 plus 56 is 196, divided by 2 is 98 degrees. Okay, good, so it works out. And then one last problem for us to look at today. And here's the return of the dreaded x. Well, hopefully it's not too dreaded. The relationship stays the same. This angle is the average of these two angles, or these two intercepted arcs. So 3x must be equal to 4x plus 5 plus x plus 5 divided by 2. And so I write that down. 3x, the measure of that angle, is equal to the average of these two intercepted arcs. So add them up and divide by 2. Now to do the algebra, just like with the last one, I'll multiply both sides by 2. That gives me 6x equals 4x plus 5 plus x plus 5. Combine your like terms. 4x plus x is 5x. 5 plus 5 is 10. And then a little bit of algebra here. I'll subtract 5x from both sides of the equation. 6x minus 5x is 1x, and so x equals 10. So if x is equal to 10, that means this angle inside here is 3 times 10. That's 30 degrees, and I feel like I'm done with this problem until I look a little bit more closely. I want the measure of angle ACD. Oh, and I just found the measure of angle ACB. Well, not a big deal. We saw before, whoops, these two angles form a linear pair, so they must add up to 180 degrees. So I'll just take 180 minus 30 to get 150. And that is the angle that we're looking for. 150 degrees is the answer to this question. So there we go. Your assignment over the weekend isn't too crazy long. I think I've got either 8 or 10 problems similar to these, but definitely should be a fairly quick assignment for you as you're working on this. On Monday, we're going to do big deal idea number 5, which is actually very similar to this one, but I will save that for Monday. Hopefully everything's going great for you. Hopefully we get some good weather this weekend. But in the meantime, good luck on this assignment. Let me know if there are any questions, and we'll get back to you later. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.